Hi guys, welcome back to yoga. This is a big deal. This is our 50th class, our 50th virtual class on YouTube. Still only have 58 subscribers, but it's all right. It's all right. It doesn't hurt my feelings at all. My niece on TikTok has like 1 million subscribers, literally like thousands and thousands. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I've got 58 yoga subscribers. So welcome back. I'm probably going to post this right after I film it. So it's actually Saturday afternoon right now. It's a little bit muggy, a little bit gray out. I got to walk a bunch of miles with my best friend and her dog this morning. So that was a good way to start my day. And I could use a little yoga. So I'm hoping you could use a little yoga. And I have an idea for what I want to do today. It's going to kind of go organically, but the basic idea is that I think I talk a lot about the difference between, well, actually, I don't think I talk a lot about it. I think I casually mention settling into poses, but I don't really ever explain what that means, and I know what it means to me as a yogi and as a teacher and as a student, and I want to just kind of delve into that a little bit with you today. So that will bring us into a variety of poses, and a little bit of talking, a lot of talking if you know me. And as always, I hope you'll be feeling better than when you started, but I hope that it gives you a little bit of an idea of how to connect your breath with any single yoga pose you do ever. So that's what we're going to play with. You need your mat, you need a blanket or a towel to sit up on, and that's it. So lay down, arms at your side, palms up, get comfy, and we're going to get started right away. Because the dog is quiet, she's in her crate, right over there, right there. And I don't know when all hell's going to break loose. So we're gonna get going. Arms at your side, palms up. Find your breath. Inhaling and exhaling. In through the nose. Holding it for a couple seconds and then slowly exhaling it back out through the nose. I was watching someone who does virtual yoga classes the other day, who I probably met like 15 years ago for a minute, but she's, like through other yoga teachers and other yoga friends, that's the connection. And she does these lovely online meditations and breathing exercises. But I noticed watching her the other day that when she breathes consciously, she inhales through the nose and then she exhales through her mouth. And that seems to be the way that she always breathes. So when she's doing yoga, practicing yoga, posting yoga things, I don't know about real life, like when she's walking through Target, but in her yoga videos, that's how she always breathes. And so it kind of got me to thinking that the way I teach to breathe is the way I was taught. But I've never really changed it up, and I've never really researched it. I've always just kind of took it for granted that that was the way you breathe when you practice yoga. So lately, I just feel like lots of good ideas have been coming at me for classes and meditations and things like that. I'm still working on the, I'll do it next time. I think I've got it for next time. But it kind of got me to thinking a little bit about breath work and why I teach breathing the way I do. And I'm just going to start to delve into that a little bit more and research that a little bit more and maybe see what other people do. When you're taught something by someone that you respect and knows that, and you know that they know what they're talking about. I don't know about you, but at least for me with a lot of yoga stuff, a lot of things I just took as, well, that must be right because so-and-so's been teaching yoga for 30 years and she teaches in India and she travels around the world teaching, and I paid her a lot of money to teach me how to teach. And over the last 15 or so years since I've been teaching, I've certainly changed things and turned things into my own and fine-tuned things that I was taught and just kind of switched them up a little bit. But the breathing part, I've never ever played with. And so it was interesting for me to watch this other woman on her videos, because that's how most yoga teachers are teaching right now because of COVID. It was interesting for me to watch her and just kind of start to think about, why do I teach it the way I teach it when she does it totally different? And I know that we had yoga teachers in common over the years. So, just something else I'm gonna share with you at some point. Eyes are closed, arms are at your side, palms are up. Find your breath. Let your body settle. Let your body be heavy on your mat. And then when you're ready, pull the knees in using the core muscles and slowly drop your legs over to the right, keeping the back of the left arm grounded and flat and snuggled into the ground, looking straight up or looking towards the left hand. You know, yoga is like anything else. It's a lot like recipes. You know, like there might be a recipe that you love and that you know is tried and true and tested, and your mom made it, your grandma made it, your aunts make it, or your best friend makes it that way, and you love it that way. But then maybe one day you don't have cinnamon and you add something else instead, allspice or nutmeg, and it changes it just a little bit, but it changes it in a really good way. So the original one is still really good, but then suddenly you've got a new version that's really good too, and it works. And yoga is a lot like that. I mean, I think I stick with a lot of the same things. I like to start my class with you in this twist all the time. There are certain poses that I'm more comfortable teaching because my classes vary from beginner to more advanced, and I'm never sure who's going to be there. But I think a lot of things I have switched up. You know, I don't necessarily teach on a theme. I don't necessarily teach, you know, a lot of the ways that I was taught to teach a class, but it seems to work, and it works for me, and it works for my students. But the breath work, watching this woman the other day, just kind of got me to thinking. So, and I'm finding that it's good to have things to think about during this whole COVID fiasco, because it gives your mind somewhere else to go other than, oh my gosh, what are we going to do for Halloween? What are we going to do for Christmas? What are we going to do for New Year's? Like, where are we going to be? What's the situation going to be like? So, it's giving me lots of good time to delve deeper into things that I already love and I already think about, but don't necessarily make the time to think intently on. Bring your knees up to center. Come on into happy baby, or one hand on each kneecap. Go wide. Let the weight of your arms pull you wide. Pull everything down into your underarm area. And just find some movement here on your low to mid back. I have a big pot of bolognese sauce cooking right now, and it smells so good. But I ran to the farmer's market this morning and bought basil, and I know I got it in the section where basil was, but the leaves just didn't look like basil. They looked really thick and veiny and pointy, and it didn't really smell like basil. So I didn't use it because I wasn't sure what it was, and I didn't want to ruin my sauce. So it smells super, super good, but it's missing something because it's missing the basil. So, So there you go. So some things you can't take out of a recipe, right? Like I was just saying, some yoga is like a recipe, but some things you can't take out. Okay, knees are still into center, right? You're going to drop your legs over to the left. Keep the back of the right arm grounded and snuggled and just nestled into the mat and the floor and the ground, and find your breath. So what I wanted to talk about today, and what I wanted to go into today with you with a couple of different poses, it's about settling into your pose, and without even meaning to, you have to do that on your breath. And so that's what we're going to play with a little bit today in just a couple of different poses. Even the pose you're doing right now, your twist, right? You get into the pose. Sometimes it feels a little uncomfortable. Sometimes you can feel the pulling across your, I know people are always surprised that they can always feel this pose so intensely right here, from the upper arm into the armpit area into the upper chest wall. But you feel that discomfort, you feel that pain. You're not entirely sure what to do with it, and what you need to do with it is take a big deep breath in And on the exhale, try to let your body soften. So that's what we're talking about today, the settling and the softening of your body into poses, and how you can get so much more out of the pose sometimes if you don't try to muscle your way through it, but rather you soften and you settle into it. And I know for me sometimes that's hard with certain poses. If it's something very specific like a hip opener, where I know my hip is going to give me a little resistance and a little bit of pushback, and it's not going to be the most comfortable thing in the world, sometimes that softening and settling is not the easiest thing for me to do. But it always feels better once I get past that and I get over that hump. But I think it's a learned behavior in yoga like anything else. And I just wanted to play with you with that a little bit today. Play with that with you a little bit today. I'm a little tongue-tied. All right, bring your knees up to center. Come on into your happy baby again, one more time. Go wide with either your feet or your knees. Let the weight of your arms pull you apart. Bottoms of the feet are facing up at the ceiling, and the knees are coming down into your underarm area. My stomach's been a little fritzy today, a little jumpy. It's not super, I'm not sure why, I'm not sure what I ate. I'm trying to think what I even ate last night. Last night I ate, last night dinner was a real clown show. Cam was at a play date and he was eating pizza. Mike was at work, so it was just Alex and I. So we had turkey dogs, which we both really like, turkey hot dogs, no rolls, just cooked turkey hot dogs. And then Alex had mac and cheese and salad, and I had my favorite, canned green beans. I love canned green beans. And when all this craziness first started in March, I bring your feet down, bring your feet wide, let your knees tower in towards one another and lean into each other for just a second. When all this craziness started in March, I stocked up on canned green beans on one of my very first crazy shopping trips. And no one else in my house likes them, but I love them. I love the mushiness. I love the saltiness. I love the color, that army green color. So last night I treated myself to a whole can of green beans with my turkey dogs. That might be why my stomach is rumbling. I don't typically eat canned vegetables unless they're like beans to make chili with or something. But canned green beans, there's just something special about those suckers that I've always liked ever since like school lunches. I'm a little odd with food because I was a dietitian in long-term care. I ate hospital food and nursing home food a lot for lunches and stuff. And I know it's typically gross, but I really like it. And I think that's where my love of canned green beans first started. So come on up onto hands and knees. Spread your fingers nice and wide. So cat and cow is the first pose we're going to talk about settling into and relaxing into. So moving on your breath in yoga is usually, it's different for every different class of pose as far as I'm concerned. For twisting it's different. For something where you're undulating like cat and cow it's different. For something where you're doing a flat back like mountain pose with 3 flat backs it's different. It's different for all these different classes of poses. So we're going to play around with maybe 1 or 2 poses from each little category and just kind of work our way through it, moving through it on our breath. So for cat and cow, let me start by saying that typically the exhale is when you settle. So what you need to do is figure out in your pose when you're moving on your inhale, when you're moving on your exhale, and even if it's not a pose that's done quick, like there's an inhale and an exhale that are very specific, but it's a lot of breath work in the pose, you still can constantly lift up and settle back down, like a lunge. So we're going to play with a little bit of all of that, and it might sound like I'm contradicting myself when I explain it to you, but I'm not. It's just that the different poses require a slightly different approach. So this may be way more than you want to know about yoga. This may really help you and enrich your practice, which is what I hope. But if it's way more than you want to know, I understand that too, and that's fine. Just do the poses, feel good, and tune me out. Okay? So cat and cow, fingers are spread nice and wide. You can curl your toes under behind you, or you can leave your feet out flat, whatever you prefer, because we're not focusing on that at the moment. So here on the inhale is when you press up and press the floor away from you, drop your head, press your spine up out of the shoulders. The exhale is when you find the comforting part of the pose. And that's how I think about this. I think about this as finding the comforting part of the pose. So the inhale is kind of the work part, like right now. Inhaling is the work part. Exhaling is kind of the comforting part after you do the work. So move through cat and cow a little bit, paying more attention than you might normally would to the inhale and the exhale, and then the physical action that's accompanying each one. Okay, so inhale, press up. Exhale, arch your back and look up. Got it? Inhale. Exhale and settle. And the settle is kind of like if you were to, how do I put this? Settling would be like, okay, so you want to think of something comforting, something that just envelops you. What if settling was like when you climbed into a hot tub or a jacuzzi or a warm bubble bath? When you first get in, it might feel really hot and uncomfortable, and you have to be careful. You don't want to slip, you don't want to fall. So you climb in, you make all those little adjustments to the temperature, to the slipperiness, to everything. You get yourself into that comfortable position, and then finally you exhale and you're like, oh, yeah, this feels so good. And you just let the warm water wash over you, you let the bubbles wash over you, and everything just feels like it's aligned and it's in place, and now you can relax, right? So that's what the exhale is. The exhale is the time when you know you can relax into the pose. Okay, so that's what I want you to keep in mind here. So move through your cat and cow, and instead of thinking of exhaling as arching the back, looking up, pressing out through the crown of the head and the tailbone like we might normally, think of it as your time to settle and relax into the pose. Okay? We're just going to do 2 or 3 more. And then from here, we're going to come into our wide knee child's pose. Same thing. The setup is the harder part. The setup is where you're doing the work to get into the pose. Once you're down and you're comfortable, that's when you can sigh and relax and just melt down into the floor for this pose. Okay, so big breath in. As you exhale, find your way down. And then obviously continue to breathe as you're down here. And with every exhale, see if you can soften and melt a tiny bit more. That's what you want to do when you're in. Hi, sorry. I had to delete some stuff and make more space. So you're still in child's pose, right? You're inhaling, and on every exhale, you're softening into the pose. That's what I mean by settling, I guess. Softening. Maybe that's a better word for it. But you're softening into the pose. All right, so come on up onto hands and knees from your child's pose. Downward dog is a little bit trickier. I'm going to give you some voice commands, and you can either choose to do them or not do them, but they're what I do to help me soften into the pose. I think with dog, a lot of the time people go up into the pose, they get there, and then they just stop, and they stay, and that's their pose, and that's the end of it. But there's so much moving and softening and breathing that you can do in dog to make it feel better and to get more out of it. And that's what I want to try to do with you just for a minute or two. Okay, so come on up into your dog.
You know, for me, this is my first dog since today's Saturday, since Thursday, I think. My calves are tight, my Achilles are tight, my hamstrings are tight. So I could choose to stay right where I am. I'm in dog. It's probably an okay looking dog, but I want it to feel better. So I'm going to go up on my toes. I'm going to bend my knees, press my hips back towards the wall behind me so I create all this space in the back of my shoulders and in my spine. And then I'm going to straighten my legs up, and here comes the softening. Here comes the relax. On an exhale, I'm going to drop my heels to wherever they're comfortable going. And I'm going to settle and soften into the pose. And then I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to come up on my toes, bend my knees, press my hips back towards the wall behind me, lift my hips high by straightening my legs, and then as I exhale, I'm going to soften and drop my heels down towards the floor. And that's my settle. Let's do that one more time, okay? So inhale up onto the toes. Exhale and bend your knees. Inhale, press the hips back behind you. Exhale, lift the hips high. Take a nice big breath in, inhaling. And then on your final exhale, drop the heels and soften. Come on down, hands and knees. Those are just little steps that I do when I go up into a jog. Sometimes I do them really quick so that they're not, like hardly even noticeable. But I pretty much always do that to help myself soften into the pose and not just feel like I'm jamming myself up there, I'm in my jog, and that's the end of it. I want it to feel good, right? So that's what I do. So let's cat and cow for a minute, just as a transition. Remembering that on the exhale, when you're in this position, that's when you're softening and settling into the mat, into the ground. Okay? Inhale up. Exhale. Arch your back and look up. And then just keep moving on that pace. One or two more. One more inhale. One more exhale. Soften, settle. Let your body be heavy here. Let your belly be heavy here. And then from here, we're going to come up onto, let's just come on up to stand. So however you want to come on up to stand, come on up. My right knee, did you hear it click? It's been a little bit funky this week. I'm not sure why. The only thing I can think of is that I switched out my sneakers earlier in the week because my orange ones were wet. I had cleaned them and they were wet, and I wanted to make sure that the inside got super, super dry before I wore them again. And the black ones just don't have the same arch, and I think maybe that's what did it. But my right knee keeps on, every once in a while, like maybe once or twice a day, it'll hyperextend back and kind of take me by surprise and feel really uncomfortable. So I'm keeping that in mind as I move through my poses today. So you might want to go deeper into certain things than I'm willing to go right now because I just don't want to make this worse. I don't want to aggravate it. It's happened to me before. I know it'll heal itself, whatever it is, but I just don't want to make it worse. So we're just going to come into a forward bend. I don't know how close I can go without cutting off my head. We're just going to come into a forward bend here. Drop your head. Release your arms. Find your breath here. Just find your inhale, find your exhale. With every exhale, you want to see if you can bend a little bit deeper. So you're not just moving on your breath here, you're physically playing with your body. You might suck it in a little bit more, engage the core a little bit more, and see if you can create more space to fold. You might press out through the back of your knees a little bit more. and encourage the hamstrings to lengthen and open a little bit. But you're doing those little tiny things on the exhale, on the softening part. Okay, so hang forward. Inhale. And as you exhale, try to do something that feels like it will encourage a deeper bend. For me, that's usually engaging my core and kind of playing with my midsection a little bit. Maybe it's letting your shoulders be heavier. Maybe it's letting your head be heavier. Cross your arms at the elbows and let's hang this way for a minute. Okay, so now we're going to come into 3 flat backs. We're going to inhale up to a flat back. Not really settling, just lengthening out through the crown of the head. But now on the exhale, that's when we settle into our forward bend. That's when we soften. That's when, if we're in a hot tub, we let that warm water just relax us and wash over us, okay? So we inhaled up. We're going to exhale and fold. Inhale up. Exhale and fold. One more time, inhale up. Now as you exhale, soften. See if you can make this the deepest forward bend you've ever done in your whole entire life. And the way to do that is simply to soften, to figure out what to change that's very, very subtle that'll encourage a deeper bend. Okay, roll all the way up to stand. I don't know if that was helpful at all. I hope it was. It's an interesting thing. It's one of those physical things that if you can get it into your head and get the mental picture, you can figure out why it would work. But when you're in a forward bend, if you can engage the core, if you can suck it in, you can create deeper space to fold into. It's a simple thing if you think about it, right? You're pushing something back to fold deeper into to create more space, but it's just something that we don't think about unless it's kind of brought to our attention. At least I didn't until someone mentioned it to me, I don't know, in a class years ago, like engage your core, suck it in, create more space to fold into. And the more you can fold into the forward bend, the more you can relax into the pose, the more you can settle into the pose. So the next pose we're going to play with is just a simple lunge. We'll do both sides. Start with whichever side feels your best. I'm going to start with my right knee because that's the one that feels a little funky and I kind of want to get it over with. So start with one leg forward, step back with the opposite, so I've got right forward, left back, bend into the front knee. A lunge is a tricky one because on the inhale, that's when you kind of roll the shoulders back, bring the shoulder blades down, engage the core, sit up straight and tall. I'm a little shaky today. Come up high on the ball of your back foot. The exhale, so inhale, you sit up straight and tall. Exhale, you soften. I don't know if you can even see that difference. I can feel it. I can feel like the inhale is when I'm engaging things and when I'm firming things up and when I'm hugging everything into the midline so I don't fall. The exhale is when I take a big breath in and then I just sigh it all out like a sigh of relief. Okay? So bend into the front knee. You're high on the ball of the back foot. Roll the head of the arm bones back. Shoulder blades come together on your back. Everything slides down. Palms face forward. Make sure you have space between your shoulders and your ears. Take a big breath in. And then on your exhale, allow things to soften. So you don't want to feel quite as muscularly engaged on the exhale as you do on the inhale. You still want the muscular engagement because you want to be able to maintain the pose and not fall out of it. But you don't want to feel quite so like muscularly I don't know, the words I'm thinking of aren't the right words. I'm thinking like muscularly angst, muscularly angry. Like those aren't the right words, but do you know what I mean? Like you don't want to feel so muscularly tense. You want to feel like you're muscularly engaged enough to maintain the pose, but soft enough to settle, right? Let's try the other side. I like stepping back into a lunge or stepping into a lunge. I don't like stepping into a lunge from a forward bend. It always makes me feel a little shaky. And I'm not sure why, because in general, lunges aren't really an issue for me. I don't know. All right, so you're high on the ball of the back foot. All right, you guys, I'm having technical difficulties here today. It's my third attempt. This is going to be 3 videos spliced together. I just finished and put you in Shavasana and realized it wasn't taping. So we're finishing lunge with our left leg in front, or whichever leg you have in front. This is my opposite. It's the same thing, right? You inhale, you muscularly engage and firm up. You exhale, you breathe out that sigh of relief. That's what it is. So head of the arm bones back, palms forward, shoulder blades slide down your back, pressing out through the back heel, bending into both knees. Inhale and exhale. And that's the settle, right? That's the settle in the lunge. So what I need you to do now, come on down for just a couple quick cat and cows. And then we're going to do our final pose, which will be a seated twist and a forward bend. So 2 final poses that are moving on the breath. And they may be ones that you've never really thought about, but the twist one is the one that I've always been told and always thought about as the inhaling, sitting up straight and tall, exhaling, finding your twist. It's a good one to practice moving on the breath with. So just a couple cat and cows here, remembering what we said in the beginning. Inhale, press up. Exhale, hurt your back, look up, but at the same time, settle and relax, right? Inhale, exhale. Okay, come to a seated wide leg position. I did something different yesterday with my sit-ups. I don't know what I did, but man, I am sore. I feel like my organs are sore. That's how effective yesterday strength training was for me. It's a good thing. You know when you do stuff and you do it over and over and over and over and over again, and sometimes you don't feel any result and you want to feel that soreness so you know it was working? That's what this is. It's a good thing. So, we're just going to start with a simple seated twist. We've done this before. Verbal cues might be a little bit different though. So just pay attention or do the twist as you know it. My nose is running. And just enjoy the twist for what it is, right? Left hand to the outside the right knee. Right fingertips. You want to be on your fingertips back there because you want full range of motion in that back shoulder. So no flat hand. Fingertips. Fingertips behind you. And behind you means if you were to go to the middle of your back and go straight out, that would be where that back hand should be. So on your inhale, you sit up straight and tall. On your exhale, you find the rotation and you settle. Inhale, sit up straight and tall. Exhale, find the rotation and settle. So this is a pose that you're constantly making little adjustments to. You know, you may go as far as you can with the rotation in the very first go round, but you may be someone who can eke out 5 little rotations and go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So you want to constantly be playing with this and moving on the breath, inhaling to find the straight height and the extension, exhaling to find the rotation. So one more time, inhale up, exhale and rotate. Perfect. Come on back. Same thing on the other side. So right hand to the outside of the left knee, left fingertips in the ground behind you. Inhale up, straight and tall. Exhale and rotate. Inhale up, straight and tall. Exhale and rotate. You may also find, interestingly enough, that you have more room to rotate on one side than you do on the other.
So one side you may get more rotations on your exhale than you do on the other side, just because that's how you're created. That's how you have more. You just maybe have more space on one side than the other. Let's do it one more time. Inhale up straight and tall. Exhale and rotate. Come on back to center. So the last thing we're going to do is my favorite, very simple forward bend. It's similar to the twist in that the inhale is when you find your height and your length out through the crown of the head from the tailbone straight up the spine. The exhale is when you kind of settle and soften. Okay? So you inhale, fine, and here's what I want to emphasize here. You may be someone whose hands stay right here, or out here. Doesn't matter. No matter where your hands are, no matter how far you're able to get into the pose, you're still doing the same things. So you walk your hands out to wherever you're comfortable. Keep a flat back. Keep a little arch in your back even. Look up. Inhale. Now the exhale is when you soften and fold forward. So you inhale, straight up. Exhale, soften and fold. Inhale, find a little height. Exhale and fold. So again, this is a pose that has kind of a constant vibration to it. You know, it may be not even discernible to anyone else who's in the room with you or watching you practice or taking a class or the teacher, but you want to feel the movement on your breath. You want to feel on the inhale like you're lengthening out from the tailbone. On the exhale, you want to feel like you're folding into the pose. Okay? So let's do one more here. Walk out. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and fold. All right, and from here, assuming everything is taping and videoing and I can splice all three of these suckers together, you're going to go right into your Shavasana. I apologize. I don't know what's going on. It's a little wonky today. I think I need to go through all my pictures from summer and delete like 1,000 of them. But I will get this up and posted, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. I know it's a little different. It's a little more like a workshop than a class, like a mini workshop. But hopefully it just makes you think a little bit more about how every single pose moves on the breath, and how there's a constant movement in your poses. You never want to be super still in a pose. Even if it's something that I can't see or anyone else can see, you want to feel the movement on the breath in your pose from start to finish. And you want to make sure you get that relaxed. That's important. So you're lying on your back, arms at your side, palms up, close your eyes. Find your breath, whatever breath is comfortable for you here. Let your mind wander a little bit. Try not to think about any one thing specifically. Just let your thoughts come and go. As you're lying here, take a second and thank yourself for making time to take a class today, for doing something that's good for you, even if you may have a million other things on your to-do list, like everybody does right now. Just thank yourself for taking a minute to love on yourself a little bit, right? Take a nice big deep breath in, big inhale. Nice big exhale. And then on the next inhale, either roll over to your right and push up to sit, or rock yourself right up to a comfortable seated position. Bring your hands to your heart in prayer. Find your breath here. Inhale and exhale. One more inhale. And exhale. Namaste. Thank you guys for joining me for number, how do I do it, 50? Or is it 50? I don't know how it looks when you're seeing it. Number 50. It's number 50 for virtual classes since the middle of March on YouTube. And you know, whether you're someone who watches one class a month, or you do one class a week, or you've done 3 classes in the last 6 months, I appreciate that you've done any of them, and I'm thankful that yoga has translated so well to a virtual platform, and I really hope that you find these classes to be helpful, entertaining, funny, a stress reliever, whatever the case is. I hope that you enjoy them. So have a great rest of your week, and I will see you again on Wednesday, and I'm not sure what we're going to do yet, but we're going to do something good. Okay? Take care. Thank you so much. Bye.